Jacqueline Penna, it's good to see you.
You too, Mike.
I haven't seen you in person since Austin, which is
Has that
like
been a year? Longer?
that's like 3 years.
Has it been that long?
20
No.
no 2021.
Okay. When did you
It's
leave in
almost
2021?
2024.
When did you leave in 2021? I don't remember like the month.
I left in December.
Oh, okay. So we can consider that like
Yeah, so I guess it'd be like
2022.
2022. Yeah. Crazy
Yeah,
how
so
how quickly time goes by.
2 years almost. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I know it's nuts. Well, it's good to see you. Thanks for jumping on. I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction so I can kind of
Cool.
let the people know who you are and then we can get into it. Cuz you do have quite the resume when it comes to fitness, which is why I'm glad to have you on. So a couple things to note with you, which will be good for our conversation, is you are a past bikini competitor. You competed. You're actually a pro, right?
Yeah.
NAMBF pro. You've won pro shows. You even qualified for Worlds, which for people that don't know is a huge show. It's a world championship, natural show. Um, you're a certified personal trainer. You've been certified since 2006, and owner of your own coaching company, Worthy Fit Lifestyle. So you've done a ton in the industry, and you definitely know your stuff. And I was excited to have you on for this conversation because we know each other from when I was in Austin. So, well, actually, we know each other through
Before
First
that.
Form. Yeah, we
Yeah.
we know each other through First Form. So, like at First Form functions and stuff like that. But then when I moved to Austin, Texas, because for people that don't know, I lived in Austin, Texas for a couple years, and I moved out there in like the end of 2019. And so you're in Austin, Texas. So we would go to the gym and meet up and train and everything like that. And so this was you were like just wrapping up with your last season of competing.
It was, yeah, that was because I was doing a different category just for fun, just to see about it. Because I tried prepping during the whole pandemic thing, and then everything got shut down, shows were getting canceled. So I decided, well, after everything started ramping back up, I was like, I kind of want to do another show. I want my sisters to come see me, see what it's all about. So then I threw myself in one more show as a pro competitor. And then after that, I was like, I'm done.
I remember that too because you were like prepping and then I was starting prep
Mhm.
then. And I remember you were like, because I was asking you, I was like, you're going to keep going. You're like, no, no, I think I'm done. Cause you could tell, cause you were like making that full shift, like, cause you were doing it for like, that was always the thing that was interesting to me is you were doing it for like, you're like, yep, that's just fun. Like I was just having a good time. And I always admired that because you didn't seem like you put like a whole ton of like pressure on yourself or had all these unrealistic expectations and you kind of had yep, let's just go and have a good time.
I think it's more too because when I get my mind set on something, I'm gonna keep doing it until I achieve it. And my goal was just to get pro card and compete because I wanted something competitive after high school and just finding my direction with like who I was and my confidence. So when I discovered bodybuilding, that's why I wanted to do it. And I was like, well, I can't stop until I get my pro card. And my husband encouraged me to hire a coach, which I hired John Gorman because I had competed the first 2 years on my own. And I got first place, but I didn't get pro. Then I got like top three twice. So then after I got my pro card, I'm like, well, I reached my goal. And like, it is awesome and a passion, but I always am trying to find something more competitive for myself. And it's not really for anybody else. So I think that I've never like really gone towards the whole like peer pressure or trying to fit in. It's more like, hey, I want this goal. I want to achieve it. Okay, what's next? What's going to challenge me? And just keep striving for something new. So that's why I was like, I'm done.
Yeah. So when you got into it, like what got you into it? Because you said you got into it to gain
Yeah,
confidence.
well, like I was after high school, so that was like 2008, then I was really on a path of like smoking cigarettes, and like it was like a pack a day. It was pretty bad relationship that I was in, all those things. But I
You used to smoke
loved,
cigarettes? I did
yeah,
too.
it was like a
Crazy.
pack a day. It was bad, like
I used
chest pain, all the
Damn,
things.
yeah, pack a day's a lot. I was never like a big we'll get back on topic, but when someone says something that is interesting, that's like because I used to smoke cigarettes. So like there was a time where I would leave the gym and light up a cigarette, almost like not even having a protein shake. Instead of a protein shake, it was a cigarette. That was like I was like 20 years old, you know? Like so I was
Dang.
like I would go work out and then get in the car and light up a cigarette like
Oh my
right after a
God.
workout. And I was like thinking back on that, it's so funny to think about. Especially because now you don't see like cigarettes are not that common. I mean, you see
Yeah, they're not
vaping.
cool anymore.
No, like back in our day, we smoked cigarettes, like real
But
cigarettes, not that
that's
vape
why
shit.
you left the gym. You're like, man, that was a hard workout. Need a cigarette.
Yeah, right. Oh no, that's so funny. All right, so
I
good.
love
So go
that.
on. Yeah,
But,
yeah,
but yeah, so like after, I mean, after a bad relationship, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day, I just knew like I needed to get back to health and fitness because I loved playing sports. I liked being competitive, but I didn't go to college, so I didn't have like, a scholarship or some sport to do in school. I was just like, what can I do that's fitness that I enjoy? And then I discovered bodybuilding, but I didn't know that women's bodybuilding there was bikini. I just thought it was just more
it's
of
just
like the physique and the like
bodybuilding in
more
general.
bulkier. Yeah, and I was
Yeah,
like, oh, there's this bikini bodybuilding thing. I was like, I kind of can get down with this. And so I just went down a rabbit hole watching YouTube videos, reading books on how to diet, and I just put myself through all this stuff by myself and like just kind of figured it out. So I don't really know what, like, there was not a person that really got me into bodybuilding. I think that's when Instagram started really getting more popular, like 2012, when everyone was
yeah.
posting on there. So I had found through the hashtags,
Fitspo.
finding people. Yeah. And I was like, I want to figure this thing out. And there was like a
Did you have a
local.
shift from working out to bodybuilding, or was it like just straight into bodybuilding? Like I'm going to pick up weights and bodybuilding, or is it like I'm going to start working out and then, oh, okay, I'm working out, I've been working out for a while. Oh, there's this bodybuilding thing that looks interesting. Or
So
was it just like straight into bodybuilding?
I think it kind of, well, it wasn't straight into bodybuilding because I had started working out again, but it was like I didn't know how to properly work out in the gym. So I was just doing cardio, the
Yeah,
cardio and plyometric movements. Like I didn't
sure.
use machines. And so when I found out about bodybuilding, I just started working out. I didn't have any structure behind my
Mhm.
workouts. I just showed up. And then that's when I got certified. It was actually 2016 or 2015. I got NASM certified
Oh, what I
into
say,
2016. So
2006?
2006, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was, I
I
mean,
just gave you
that
an
was,
extra 10 years of
thanks.
experience.
Yeah. I was like
Yeah,
16
like,
then.
yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got certified just to learn for myself and then create programs that I could kind of follow. But yeah, I just started lifting weights. I mean, it wasn't like intense 5 day
Yeah.
splits or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was somewhat of a split, but I just started working out.
I think whenever anyone's, I mean, because the nice thing is when you start out, it doesn't you can do everything wrong, you're still gonna get results. Like that's
Yeah.
it's a great like window of time. You get this like nice year where you're just like, I could go in there and do everything wrong from my diet to my workouts, and I'm still gonna get great results. So, but going in and then just being like, I'm gonna just do this. I think I just would do arms like every day. Like it'd just be like every day, arms, chest. Like, wait a minute, there's a whole back to me. Like, let's do that next. Like so.
It was probably like 6 months into lifting weights more strategically that I was doing in-body scans at the supplement store next to the gym.
Mhm.
And I was seeing my muscle balance, and the guy at the store was like, do you work shoulders? And I was like, what do you mean work shoulders? I didn't know that was a muscle group to work. I was
Yeah,
just like, I'm working triceps, biceps, doing like chest because my shoulders would burn out so much doing chest day. And he was like,
yeah.
well, you should train shoulders. And I was like, well, how do I do that? So I had to figure out how to train shoulders. And I'm like, I love working shoulders. Like it's my favorite, but it was
Yeah,
so funny. I had no idea.
I think that's what we would always train too. Like we would train shoulders a lot, and then we would do those like, remember those like 50 rep quad burners that you put me through? Like you'd be like, all right, we're gonna just do like 100 reps right now at quads.
I
Just
love
burn
it.
out. Yeah. So but I remember like that shift when you decided that you were done competing, and I remember you said, I'm gonna do karate. And
Yeah.
I was like, so that interests me as to like what made you decide, like what was the shift where you were like, I'm done competing, I don't want to do this anymore? Was there a um an event, a thought, or what, like just an instant, like what was it? Was it that it was just not doing it for you anymore? Like you weren't feeling fulfilled from it?
Yeah, I think bodybuilding started to not feel fulfilling just because I had reached my goal. And even after that, I just wasn't feeling like I wanted to diet more,
Mm,
especially doing things naturally. And after, 5, 6 years, I just wanted
mm,
something that I felt like I could not focus so much on myself for it. So I could give more into growing my business and helping clients. So I wanted something that kind of helped me learn something else. But why specifically karate
yeah.
is because there had been several instances where I had been attacked or assaulted, and I always, in the back of my head, I wanted to have more confidence and control in situations and not freeze up, because it's very common for women to freeze up when someone puts hands on them. Like you just don't know what to do. Like you just like you're like a fainting goat. You just like and just like
what
freeze up.
what if you don't mind me asking, what happened? Like where,
Yeah.
do you mind talking about that? Or
Yeah, so like there was a few times. So when my sister and I were like 17, we went to a metal show and we were in
like
San
a heavy
Antonio.
metal show, like a rock
Yeah,
show?
heavy
Okay,
metal show.
gotcha.
Yeah. So we're like in San Antonio, Texas. These girls were giving my sister a hard time, and I'm talking shit, back to them because I'm like,
Sounds
I
about
mean,
right.
the girl was pregnant, and the friends were like, "Why are you like telling my sister, why'd you shove my pregnant friend?" And I'm like, "Why is your pregnant friend at a show in the middle of a mosh pit?" So I don't know if they were making that up. I was like, "Fuck off." But so we were talking shit, and then right when the band started, the first breakdown, we just like we both got shoved, and the girl's just beating at me. I have like a scar, my hairline,
Oh my
like I have like
god.
the weird hairline mark here, and it like my hair grows weird, like a little cowlick. But I was
She
just
beat
getting
the hairline out of
annihilated.
you?
Yeah, and blood's going down my face. I'm like X blocking up top, but I I didn't know what to do. But I just natural reaction, I blocked, and my sister disappears. I can't find her. We had male friends that were there, did nothing. These girls are beating us up, and they just stood there and watched. So I'm like, you can't depend on anyone. So I go find my sister. She's got whelps all on her head. And I'm thinking, who cares what happened to me? Like, I couldn't help my sister either. And so we go home. Like, I was afraid she had concussions because she like literally had like 4 or 5 whelps on her head. And we didn't tell my mom till like a year ago because I was like back 2007. But we ended up like telling her, and she's like, "What the hell?" And I was like, "Well, you wouldn't let us go to metal shows if we told you."
Yeah, that's
So
probably true.
so that was one situation. But when I worked in grocery retail, a customer came up and just grabbed my ass and reached over the aisle to get something off the shelf. And I just froze up and I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, I'm literally working, and this man puts hands on me. And the aisle had no cameras. We couldn't find him after because I just went to the back room and like started crying. I didn't know what to do. But there was a lot of, I mean, the grocery store is the worst place to be for any like perverted male. Like it happens multiple times.
Is
I've been
it
followed.
really?
Yeah, I've been followed multiple times,
At the
like
grocery store in particular,
at the
more than at
grocery, just any
dude?
of them, any of them.
Really?
Yeah, and that's like women in general. Like, and in the store, I've been followed. I've actually like yelled at a guy in the aisles, just like F off. And he like freaked out and ran away. I was like, you literally followed me 3 aisles. Like, go away. So that's what got me into karate. Was I went to go take self-defense classes to learn just my body and like what to do in a situation. And then my Master Nelson, that's in charge of the dojo for Austin Karate Center, he was like, "Hey, you have a really good fighting IQ. I think you would really be great to learn karate and get your black belt." And I'm like, not interested. But then I was like, wait, that's a good challenge.
Challenge, right?
Actually, Actually,
that's what I remember you always liking was challenge. And I remember you were not even feeling like you said, you got your pro card, then you were like, okay, like,
I need
what,
something.
yeah, I need something to do. So it's like, what's, anything that has like tiers, right? Where you can see progress.
Rankings.
Because
Mhm.
bodybuilding too, it's like, it's slow. Like it is like watching paint dry. I mean, if you're spending, like years and years and years doing it, I mean, it takes decades, to like build muscle, and you're just doing the same thing over and over. There's not
Yep.
if you're not like good with like boredom and doing the same things over and over and over and just watching that repeat, like bodybuilding, it's very boring. I mean,
I don't want to be
it's
bored.
it's right. And I think a lot of people like, I mean, how often do you get someone who signs up and they see bodybuilding and they think, oh, this is going to be like exciting. It's like, it's not exciting. It's really not. Like it's
Well,
and
you
that's good. Like if it's not exciting and it's just boring, you're doing the right stuff. Like it shouldn't be like switch this, do this. We're gonna
agree.
hit it's very steady, and that's something that not a lot of people both can do or even enjoy because it is so
Yeah.
monotonous.
You've
Um,
probably had people also sign up where they're like, "Yeah, I want to do this bodybuilding thing," and they see the end result, so they think, "Oh, I want to achieve that," but they don't see the actual work that goes behind it. And then you give them the plan, and they're like, after 2 weeks, they're like, "What? I'm bored of the workouts. Like, I want a new workout." And you're like, "Nope, just you gotta keep following this." And then
right.
they want to change their goal because they realize, "Oh, this is actually kind of boring." And you're like, you're you're trying to change too much, and like probably your life is boring, so that's why you think this is boring. You need something exciting. Find something else.
Yeah, like what's good for the physique in terms of there's many different
Yeah,
goals, but like if you're talking about just like building a physique, like in bodybuilding, the best stuff is the most monotonous, boring, day to day tasks. Food too. Food, exercise, all that. I could run the exact same training plan for an entire prep and prep successfully. The
I
exact
have
same.
done that a
Yeah.
whole year.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times, there's this like notion that you have to change training plans up every week or every, if you're not sure that you're not making gains or getting results. And that's just couldn't be further from how it is. Like using few exercises and being really good at those exercises is way better than or way more beneficial for your physique than the new exercise every week,
But
every week.
Mikey, you have to shock the body.
Yeah, right. Shock the muscle. But I do remember you talking specifically about how you like tiers and challenges. And I remember that was something that really sparked your passion when you started getting in karate. Now, I do have a karate question. Since getting into it, have you ever had anyone try anything with you? Like, have you had any of these events? Okay, what happened?
So my husband and I had gone to our friend's restaurant down in like East Austin, near the airport, and we're just walking, and this lady is clearly like on drugs of some sort, and we're walking into his. It's like a food truck, but he has like a gated area.
Mm-hmm.
So we're walking on the sidewalk. We just parked, and this lady like looks me dead in the eye and just started yelling gibberish and like pointing her finger at me and comes up and just pokes me like really hard on the cheek. And I'm like, I mean, and her finger was out, so I knew she wasn't gonna like punch me. But I was ready, but I was in shock. And so my husband's standing next to me. This lady punches me in the cheek with her finger, and I back away, and I'm like, back the fuck off. And I put like 3 feet distance between us. My husband, by the way, like moves off to the side because he's like, oh, now's her chance.
She's gonna whoop
He's
some
like,
ass.
oh, this is her chance. She's gonna
Yeah.
kick. So he moves out of the way, and she doesn't look like, I mean, she didn't look like she had weapons or anything, but she was just on something that I was an enemy. And I'm standing there looking at her, and I'm like, my hands are like this, like to have some distance. And she's still kind of yelling, but she has her hands down. And so she didn't do anything after that, but we turned, and as we're walking away, she's behind me, and I keep looking over my shoulder. But I was more in shock because I was like, man, I'm not going to throw her down. My goal isn't to hurt her. If she did put her hand on me again, I feel like I could have then have grounds to do something, but I don't want it to escalate to something else, right? So, but the beauty of that was the first moment I felt, wow, I don't feel anxious, or my heart rate wasn't up. I didn't feel like it was going to ruin my day. I felt very in control. And I was just like, that was interesting. I almost laughed about it. And then I was like, wow, like I felt very prepared in the situation. But it was shocking. That's like the only time that it's happened. I mean, I didn't have to actually like, throw her to the ground.
Yeah, you're just like, I wish a motherfucker would right now. Like
I was like, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, like that. But that is, it's not that you'll go out of your way to
and you
find
don't
it.
want to.
No, you
Yeah,
don't want to. Isn't that part of the deal? Like you're not. These are weapons now. Like you
better watch it.
Yeah,
weapons.
You traded in guns for I don't know what, but for nunchucks. But yeah, that's really cool. That's really interesting to me that, as a guy, I will say that things like concerts and stuff like that, those have always been risky. I'm not a big person that likes being out. In my opinion, nothing good happens after midnight. So like when I go to concerts and stuff like that, I've always been like that. Like I always have a hard time letting loose because I am always more concerned about like the surroundings. So I'm hyper aware of my surroundings.
Same.
When in public crowds, and I've always been like that, which is kind of ruined the concert experience for me a little bit because I'm always just focused on my group and getting everyone home safe. Like I'm just like the grandpa. So I typically drive and just make sure that everyone gets home. And so like going to concerts, you're always hyper because you're just dealing with tons of people who are just wasted. And it's usually it's typically men, but obviously there's times where women are usually I see women getting sick or like just too messed up, and guys are the ones being like rowdy and like starting fights. That's typically what you see in these environments. But whenever that happens, I'm always, and I don't know what it is, because whether I'm going to a comedy show or whether I'm going to a concert, I seem to always get the most obnoxious person in the entire venue right next to me. Right next to me. So I
always get the tallest person. There's always like that tall person that stops right in front of me. And I'm like, why? I have all the spots.
I always get the drunkest, most obnoxious person who's just ready for trouble. Like you ever see someone and you're like, they go out with the idea of like, well, I want to get into trouble tonight. Like they're just people that go out with the intention. And so, yeah, whenever I go to like concerts or anything like that, I don't ever really feel fully like at ease. I'm always on guard because I'm always kind of like, I'm just hypersensitive to like my surroundings. And if there's something going on over here, and like my group's over here and there's something going on like over out of my corner, I don't care who's on stage. I'm focused on like, okay, what's this commotion over here? Because people are crazy. Like, people will, especially now, like people do crazy things. You hear about it every single day. So that's really cool that you were like able to put that, because that's like a really useful skill. So you were able to put that to real life situation.
Yeah, and I feel like even just being, I mean, as a woman, I'm already more aware, like in parking lots and things, but now I feel like I can examine a situation or assess if somebody were to come up this way, how would I protect myself? And I stand a certain way. I don't keep my hands in my pockets. I don't have my phone out looking at it in the parking lot or when I'm walking. There's just things I've switched. So I'm kind of like you, I'm very hyper aware, but I also feel like, because we go to metal shows a lot and go to concerts, not big ones, but just small venue ones. And there's spots I will stand in order to keep myself safe or to be able to escape, but I also where I can view the room. But I feel like you too, where it's like you're kind of watching other people to make sure that you're kind of like the protector of the room. Like you feel like you
Mhm.
need to make sure that no one else is getting taken advantage of. But there's a level of you don't want to get involved when a fight or something is happening because there's no reason for that either. You need to just stay back and not get hurt.
Well, you're always on the defensive, right? So like you'll never start it. But
Yeah.
if something happens in your, little bubble or whatever, like you're going to act. So, I mean, that's important. You always have
Mhm.
to, so you always have to be aware of your surroundings, especially
Yeah.
when you're going into these like highly populated. I find like when you go into the city. So, like for me, because when you go to metal shows or whatever, you kind of go downtown, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know that Austin had a ton. I know that they have a lot of music, and they had a lot of music, even though things were shut down when I was there. But I didn't know that there was a ton of metal shows coming through there because Chicago has a. I mean, they have everything. I don't remember a whole ton of metal shows. When's the last time you've been to a metal show?
There's more in like Dallas and Houston
Okay,
because just bigger cities, but there's a ton here in Austin too. And they're more like East Austin, or now venues are popping up further out of the city. So that's nice. They're not going to be on 6th Street like it used to be back in the day, where like you had all the venues lined up. And now I
yeah.
feel like at shows, like there was a show I went to a few weeks ago, but a few months ago, there was a show. This guy's super drunk, just being annoying in the mosh pit, pushing everyone for no reason. It's like,
Every
dude, I'm
show,
just trying.
every show,
There's always
there's
that
gonna be,
one.
there's always
But like everyone shoved him out and pretty much eventually kicked him out of the entire mosh pit and wouldn't let him back in. And he's trying to like high five people. I'm like, I don't want to touch you. Like you're sweaty and gross. Like, no. So everyone is like working together to keep people safe, helping each other up. I like the culture that metal shows
it's
is
always a
coming back
guy.
full
You
circle.
ever
It's
notice
always,
that?
yeah.
It's always a guy. Like it's whenever there's like I said, and I've been to a zillion concerts and shows. It's always a guy. Like it's
Yep.
always a guy starting shit. And yeah, you might see like when you told me that there was like uh women, you guys were fighting other women, like that's not too
I'm
common. Like
not.
it's
I used
typically,
to
yeah.
mosh. Not
Like you see,
anymore. I don't want to get hurt.
it's moshing's a young person's game, isn't it?
Yeah, we care too much when we get older and it takes
Yeah.
multiple days to
You're
recover,
like, I'm going in the pit.
I'm
Let me
like,
get,
oh,
yeah.
stretch my quads, shoulders.
Yeah. Now, so are you downtown now since you moved, or are you okay? So when I was in Austin, I lived like 15, 20 minutes away from downtown, which
Mhm.
was awesome. My whole goal when I moved there, just to kind of go down another topic here, my whole goal when I moved there was to be close to the city so I can get all of the perks of the city and then be able to just dip
Yep.
in and dip right back out, which is just the way I like it. You couldn't pay me to live downtown. There's no amount of money that I would ever want to live down. I lived downtown in Chicago when I was in my early 20s for my college experience. That was enough. I would never live in a major city. And so now I'm in Northwest Indiana. So downtown Chicago is about 1 hour from me.
Mhm.
So I get that is like perfect. Like go to the city if I want to go to a concert, a show, comedy show, an event, whatever. And then I'm out and on my way back home that, as quick as I came in. And that is like perfect. I don't know about
Yeah,
you, but living in a
I'm the
city,
same.
not for me. Not for
We
me.
thought about it, but then I feel like it would last 3 months and I would be over it. It's the honking. Like Chicago's also bad with honking. When I visited for like
Chicago's terrible with everything.
3 days, I mean, yes, but I remember we stayed downtown Chicago for a few days and I'm like, shut up. Like everyone's honking for no reason. And I was getting so irritated. I'm
I
like,
have
I
a
need
fun
quiet.
I have a funny outlook on honking. So So my outlook on honking, because I am notorious for just like, I don't care where I gotta go. I'm not speeding. I'm going, and you know, and when I say I'm not speeding, like I'll go, you know, if it's 60, I'll go 70 or whatever. But there's nowhere that I need to go in a rush that is worth me speeding for. Either
Mhm.
getting a ticket or putting someone else in danger. So I'm very like careful when I drive, and I'm aggressive when I need to be. But I don't use the horn because unless it's going to prevent something, which is probably like 10% of the time people use the horn, it's basically tell someone fuck you. And to me, like whatever happened. The horn is the after, so the horn's not going to change anything. So I'm big on not using a horn, and I think you could tell a lot about a person on how much they use the horn. You ever
I
drive with
like
someone?
using my horn.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fuck you. Yeah,
No,
like
I use it for like when people are at the light, people are at the light and they're like on their phone and it's like, bruh, it turned green. So it's like a love tap where it's
so
like a
that
little love
okay,
tap.
so that's like a
It's
prevented,
different.
that's a different. So like if you're waiting at a light and the light's green and the person's not going, then that is a call for a horn.
Yeah.
If you're just driving and using the horn,
Oh yeah.
you're not stopping anything from happening. You're just yelling at people with your car. That's what it
It's like
is.
people with hazards on when they shouldn't have hazards on. You can't tell where they're going to turn
Well,
because now,
then the horn is good because like let's say you got a flat or your tire or something, you can
yeah.
honk at someone and get their attention. That's not what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
But
people that use the
aggressive honking.
people that
Yeah.
you ever get honked at for like, I mean, even if you're like, say, like you go forward and they're going for it, and like people be like, and it's like, dude, can we
Wait,
all
can I tell
just
you a
calm
honking?
down?
Can I
Absolutely,
tell
yeah.
you a
Tell me how.
honking?
Of course.
Okay, so I'm driving the other day and this car is like going 10 miles under the speed limit. I'm like, bro, like, come on, go at least the speed limit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, not on their ass, but I'm letting them know, come on, speed it up. So I guess they were lost. That's why they were going so slow. But they didn't like, and they threw their hand up. You know, I saw their little hand go, and then
Yeah.
they get over like 3 lanes and I speed up the actual speed limit and they honk at me even though they're 3 lanes over because they were mad that I was like on their ass. But I'm like, it's why are you honk? That was a pure example of there's no reason to honk because they're like
Yeah.
3 lanes over and they're just mad. They're just like, meh.
Yeah. And so, like, okay, but like if you were in person, like if you were in the grocery store or whatever, you think they would do that if you did that with your cart,
Nope.
if with your carts?
Let's
No, you
go.
yeah, right. So like what is it? Like, what is it that people are so comfortable because there's no consequence, right? Behind the wheel, there's no, it's not like you're going to get out of the car and beat their ass, although maybe.
I mean,
I have I have two stories where I got out of my car. And so like the one, so the first story was I was when I was doing in-home sales for my family, I'm on the road all day. So I had like a house that I was getting ready to go to an appointment to. And so I was just pulled over on the side of the road because I was like a little bit like 15, 20 minutes early. So a lot of times I would just pull off on the side of the road, fuck around on my phone or do emails or just whatever, you know? And so I was just pulled over on the side of the road and this truck just honks at me as they're driving by and they flip me off. And I'm not even like, it's not like I'm in the middle of the road. Like I'm pulled over. Like, so they honk, they flick me off. And so I flipped them off and he pulled over. Like
no.
he pulled over and I saw red. I saw red. So I got out of my car and he got out of his car. And fortunately for me, he had no business getting out of his car. And so we start going back and forth. And I was like, you better get back in your car. And so he, you know, he looked at me and he realized that if we fought, if it came to that, he was going down. And we were both having a bad day. And I think I said, I'm having a bad day because I think I didn't get like any sales or anything like that. And I was just, you know, when you're striking out like home after home after home and you're just like in a shitty mood, you know? And so we went back and forth, and he ended up getting in his car, and so it was a very anticlimactic story. But I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I would never do that today. Like, never do that today, because like, that's just stupid. Like, that is like not controlling yourself, which is not something you should ever do. And also, dude, people will just shoot your ass. Like, people, like, what if he had a gun, or what if I had a gun, or like, and what's funny is I had in my back seat, it's forever, not in my back seat, but in my trunk, one of, how when you win a pro bodybuilding show, you get a sword. So I had the sword trophy in my trunk for the longest time. And so that's like, awesome. So I'm like, what if I just got out and I just have this giant broadsword? Like, so, like, would you really mess with someone if they you jump out and you're like, ah?
His ass would be running right back to his car. He'd take off.
Yeah, right. So that was one experience. And I always look back on that and I was like, whew. Like, I don't look back on that with like, oh, that was a proud moment. I look at that and like, I'm so glad that guy didn't like have a gun or a weapon or anything. I'm like, that could have went so wrong. And then this other one, this one's kind of funny. So right down the street, there's a grocery store. At this grocery store is probably the most dangerous intersection that I've ever seen in my entire life. There is an intersection where it's like a three-way, and you're coming out of the grocery store, but you have two busy roads coming through. So you're always, when you're coming out of the grocery store, you're always like, if you're going left, which I'm always going left, you're going to be there a minute. So I'm sitting there and there's 2 lanes of traffic just coming. I got my turn signal on, and this motherfucker honks at me. Like, I look at my rearview mirror and I'm like, and it's like an old lady, and she
my God,
she honked at me, and I'm on the phone too. I'm on the phone, like, not talking on the phone. I have my headphones in. So I'm like, this bitch just honked at me. Like, what, are you kidding me? And I'm looking at both lanes of traffic going, so it's not like I can go. So I'm sitting there, and then she honks again, and I'm just waiting. I'm like, if this person honks again, I'm getting out of my car. She honks again, 3 honks, and with each honk, it's not like first one honk, you're like, okay, maybe that was an accident. I mean, I've accidentally honked my horn and be like, oh, sorry, No, this was an aggressive honk, and with each honk getting more aggressive.
So maybe she's from Chicago.
I get out of my car. And so but she's behind me, and then there's a car behind her. So she can't go anywhere. So I get out of my car and I walk up to her car, and it's her, and it had to have been her dad, because he looked like he was old, like old, because I can see when I'm going up. I knew it was a woman, but I didn't see who was in the passenger seat. So I walk up and I roll down the window, and I said, excuse me, where would you like me to go? I said, do you not see that there's just 2 lanes of traffic? She's like, well, and I said, listen, stop honking so we can all get home safe. That's what came out of my mouth. I said, stop honking so we can all just get home safe.
You threatened this old lady.
The guy in the passenger seat was just looking at me like, what is going on? And so I get into my car, and then and the person on the phone heard me too. They were like, did you just like scold somebody? And then but she just pulls around me, darts out into traffic, almost hits like another car, and just takes off. And I was like, wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Crazy lady. Yeah. I mean, she's made it this far in life, so she's doing something right.
Yeah, that's like the only road rage incidents I've ever had where it's like you get out of your car and it turns into an interaction. Like, have you ever had it turn into like that doesn't really happen too much. It's usually just a drive by, like, screw you, and then you're on your way.
Yeah, just usually flick people off. That's the extent to that.
That's usually how it goes. So as far as like switching from because as far as switching from like physique athlete to, would you consider karate like functional athlete? Like, because it's still a form of athleticism. Or would you just consider that completely new sport? Like you're just
I could
shifting.
almost call that like functional, but it's also performance. I mean, it's still a
Mhm,
sport
mhm,
because there's like the aspects of sparring and all
mhm.
that, but I'm not doing it for competing with sparring.
Sure.
And I like more of the art of karate. So I have competed in a kata competition. But yeah, I would say I mean, it is functional because I find that I have better posture. I've kept myself safe when lifting heavy I mean, just like lifting, but I feel like it's actually made me a better lifter. And I wish I knew karate
Really? How so?
and martial arts before bodybuilding because you really learn how to breathe the correct way, how to,
You were always
um,
big on that. You were always, I remember you were always like,
yeah.
Mikey, breathe, breathe. Cause like sometimes I have the tendency, like if I'm pushing weight, I'm
You're
like,
like,
yeah.
well, you have to have your spine in alignment for your posture to be strong. So let's say you try and punch or kick me. Well, if I'm bending over or not in the right stance, like I'm going to be weaker. So you're trying to be like a brick wall. So like keeping good posture is going to help you with not only like your movements for karate, but I found that I can still, if I don't do I didn't do deadlifts for, I don't know, 6 months. And I was able to hit like my max. Actually, I did a PR after not hitting it for 6 months because I learned how to use my body better and grabbing energy through the ground. And like just more that kinetic chain, like where to connect the entire body and like the mechanics of the movement because I knew like the alignment. So it wasn't like my form was bad before. You just learn to be more in tune with your whole body and like how to have better control, I guess,
Mhm.
and like be more present because I feel like sometimes when I was doing, and this is just probably a me thing, but during bodybuilding, I was present in my workouts, but sometimes you're just trying to get it done. And I feel like karate kind of taught me how to be more present and be more what's the word I'm looking for? Intentional with what I'm doing. That like that translated to even when I do my lifts, I have better intention behind my movements, my lifts, and I feel stronger because I know the way I'm supposed to hold the weight, breathe through the right way.
Mhm.
I feel like it's made me a better lifter. So it is functional, but it's also like very sports based. I feel like it's made me a better person all around because there's always that challenge that you can improve on. It's like a lift, you know, you can do the same bench press for 3 years straight, twice a week, and you're still going to learn new things about how to do the bench press better. So the same thing with, you know, doing your kicks, learning how to do a punch. Like there's always ways to be more effective and how to use your body. I mean, you can have like a pain or a tension in one area of your body. You need to know, well, if you're getting attacked, let's say for martial arts, if you get attacked on the street, you can't be like, hold on, my back hurts today. Don't hit me. You know, like you need to know how to use your body
Right.
if no matter what you feel, how sore you are, and like what you need to do to be effective. So I
Were
don't know.
were
It's just
were
been really
there
interesting.
were there any challenges that you faced like when making that shift? Because like when you're going from physique athlete, so like so much of your mindset is like focused on that way that you look, even like food and habits
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So were there any like challenges you faced from making that shift from
Yeah, I
physique?
would say the challenges would be there's multiple. So like going from a physique sport to not. I mean, I went from like wearing a bikini to wearing a full weighted gi, like
Right, right.
completely covered.
Couldn't be more
So
opposite. Like
yeah.
basically
So
nothing to just completely covered.
like the food still matters, obviously, and performance with nutrition. But I had a hard time because for 6 years competing, dieting on and off, I never really knew what my set weight was because I was
And you
constantly dieting
competed
back.
pretty like close back to back too. Like you
Yeah, I
didn't
was
take a
like,
whole lot of time off.
yeah, it was pretty back to back for the
That's
most
hard.
part.
That's really
Yeah.
hard, especially with like the food. That makes dieting like dieting can be hard. That
Yeah.
makes dieting very difficult doing it
Well,
without that time off.
and not only that is honestly did not have body dysmorphia or issues during my bodybuilding seasons because I knew it was just I was process driven. I just knew I did the work. This is what was required. I'd take my progress photos, but I didn't like sit there and stare at them and dissect the things I didn't like. It was just like, get it done, move forward. It's just one day at a time. But with going into martial arts, I had a hard time with not being physique driven and seeing my weight creep up. And I'm like, I'm getting fat. But I really wasn't. I was just feeling that way because I saw the scale hit numbers that I had never seen before.
Mhm.
And it kind of gave me that insecurity and a little bit of that body dysmorphia. So it was a very interesting balancing act of figuring out, hey, how much lifting can I still do from the training side, but not too much lifting where I'm too tight and don't have the flexibility to allow my training for karate to improve. So that was like a weird transition, but then allowing my weight to go up and not seeing it as a bad thing. But it was more of like, I've never allowed my weight to get to a point where I knew what my set weight is.
Especially
So
because you were
like,
competing so frequently. Like your body
yeah,
weight never really gets to a point because you just have to turn around and lose body fat again. So
exactly.
you're just always at that low body weight.
Yeah, so like my highest weight when I was like in the bulking phase and the off season of competing was like 130, maybe 131 pounds. And then my season where I became a pro, I got down to like 106. And so then whenever I got my weight back up and then going into transitioning into martial arts, like the other week, I think it was like about a month ago, like my weight was up to 140. And I'm like, how is it 140? Like it kind of freaked me out. So I'm like, I'm not a 140 kind of girl, but it was just because like, what is this? But I look at the pictures, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, I'm happy with myself. So
Right.
it's getting rid of that. I mean, it's the same thing when we coach our clients is
Mhm.
like, how do you feel? How do you perform? How do you like your physique when you look at yourself and letting go of that like weight mentality? But now it's like sticking between like 135, 140 is honestly my happy place. If I go any lower, I feel
Yeah.
like I'm hungry, I'm tired, and I can't do the things I need to do.
And it's totally, yeah. So it's totally different fueling for performance. Like when you're fueling for your physique, sometimes like performance be damned. Not that like you don't need to be performing, especially in the off season, but the driving factor is your appearance. And I think we could all agree, like
Yeah.
that's not always the best thing for your health. Like
Yep.
106, that's not a
I looked
good,
sick. I look very
yeah.
sick. When I look at pictures, I'm like, in the moment, I felt amazing and I obviously achieved my goal. But looking back at pictures, I'm like, oh my gosh, I look very ill because I was so like sunken in.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, like because what you have to go through and the low weights that you have to touch as a
Mhm.
bodybuilder or as a physique athlete. I mean, when I compete 138, 136, I'm not a 136 kind of girl. Like, like that's that when you think about it. And then because it's all about what you look like. And it's not even that, it's like all about what you look like on stage. So like
Mhm.
when I see myself on stage, I'm like, okay, I look like I'm, when people clock me in at like 180, 190, I'm like, yeah. But then I tell them I'm like 136, 138, you know, before carb up. They're
Mhm.
like, that's crazy. And I'm like, it
Yep.
is crazy. And it's not like the things that you have to do to
It
get there.
hurts.
It really does. Yeah. It's definitely a certain amount of suffering in terms of dieting to get there. But that's physique athlete. So it's
Yep.
completely different because like for performance, like that is you're not performing, you're just your only performance is looking good or looking good.
Yep.
Looking good is subjective. So looking good to the bodybuilding judges, someone may see you and be like my dad always, whenever he sees me, he always is like, I really like you better when you're bigger. And I'm like, thanks, dad. I'm like, I know, I appreciate it.
Parents
Um,
always want to feed you though. Like they just don't want you to be all like lean and they're like, you need to eat, boy.
Well, and also like when you're going into stage, like when you are clothed, you just look like flat and sunken in, and you just
Yep.
even your color changes, like all of these different things. You look tired. right? Even like when you're talking, like your speech patterns get low. I remember when I was
Oh,
because your body's conserving calories. I remember when I was doing like these talking head YouTube videos, like back when I was in Austin, and I did them through the bodybuilding show, and I would go back and look at the videos, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like even talking slow. I'm like, at least I showed up, but man, these are horrible. Like
you want
I'm
to hear a
talking slow.
crazy dude?
Yeah.
There's okay. So I was in Kansas City for my pro debut, and I had a friend that was up in that area, so we had met up to go to the mall, and it was like I think it was 2 days. I got there early because I didn't know with traveling at a show, but it was 2 days before the show. We go to the mall and we were there for like an hour and a half, and I had to stop and sit at least 6 times because I had already had low blood pressure, but like low energy. And I would get lightheaded, like just really like tired and like lightheaded. So I'm like, I need to sit. I just felt like a 95-year-old woman, like just very fragile. I was
Yeah,
like, I need to sit for a moment.
that's
It was
just
so
Grandma
bad.
Jacqueline. Don't worry about her. But you know what though? That feeling when you stand up and the whole room is like, and it'll last like 25, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
There was this time, the worst time that happened to me was I was at my friend's house. This was when I was in Austin competing for that 2020 show. So, and this was bodybuilding, and I was getting pretty close to stage. And all my friends were hanging out, and we would always do like game nights, and we would just do like bonfires and all, we just all these get-togethers, which was just so much fun. But there everyone would be drinking, and I'm like just hanging, which is that's what I do. Like it's, I have caffeine and I'm fine. But they started smoking pot, and I was like, well, not like they busted out a bong, but there's like a little joint going around, and I was like, that always looks so much fun. Like that every time. But I don't smoke because when I smoke, I get paranoid. Not paranoid, but like it just sucks all of my confidence out of me. I start questioning myself. I start thinking about really weird things like well, I haven't called my grandma in a while. I really need to do that. Like stupid stuff like that, where you just start getting in your own head. And so the thing with me is my friends know that. And so, because every once in a blue moon, I'll break, and I'm like, let me go. Let me hit this. But then I go home because I just want it to stop. And so like I go home and I'll take like sleep medicine or whatever, just to get me through this period and just go to sleep and wake up, and then it's over. And so we're there, and I was like, when you're in prep and you're like, I'm so restricted, like I can't do anything, like there's nothing. There becomes a point where you've been dieting for like 8 or 9 months, no restaurants, no, like, no, I don't drink anyway, so that's never a big deal for me. But there's just a certain amount of like, you're just like, like I've just been restricting, like I need something. And so they start passing this thing around, and it always looks fun to me. That's what gets me every time, is I'm like, it looks fun and everything about it seems fun. I even like the way it smells. But then up until the point when I do it, then I hate it, because like I like the whole idea and the camaraderie and everyone like sharing and laughing. But then when it gets to the feeling that you get from it, it gives me anxiety, and I don't have anxiety. Like anxiety is not something that I suffer from, but that gives me anxiety, and it's a really horrible feeling. So I'm like, I was like, hey, let me get some of that. And they're like, no, they're like, Mikey, you're just gonna go home. I'm like, they're like, you promise you won't leave? Like, you promise you won't go home? I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. So I take one hit of this thing, and before I even exhale, I in my head I go, this can't be. There's no way I can feel it this quick. There's no way. Like as I'm exhaling,
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, this cannot be. There's no way it's happening that quick. And then, and me, like when I'm with like people I like I'm talkative. Like I like to, I'll talk with everybody. I think I just got quiet. Like it just got quiet. And I would
So
think, so
paranoid.
they're talking, and all I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, fuck. Like this, just no way that happened that quick, you know? And so I'm just thinking about my next move. I'm like, I just need to like go get a drink of water. And they're just talking. They're just, chatting away or whatever. And I go to stand up, and at this point in prep, every time I'm standing up, I'm woo, 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 the whole room is spinning. So I go to stand up just from the changes in your blood pressure and that feeling that we're talking about. So I go to stand up, and that happens, and that combined, and it was really long. It was like 30 seconds. So that combined with the pot, I was like, all I'm hearing, I just remember like trying to like gather my footing, and all I'm hearing is like, are you okay? Like I hear like, are you okay? And then I tried to like grab the doorknob, but I missed the door. Like I missed the doorknob. So like fall into the door kind of. And then I just like, I'm like, I'm fine. I go, and I end up putting water on my face. And then I come back out, and I'm like, I gotta go home. Like, no, you said you promised that you wouldn't go home. So I actually ended up laying on the couch for like 20 minutes to like just let it pass. Cause it really like, I think once I told everyone that I wasn't feeling well, that there's something about like when you're in that scenario, I'm like, why don't you want to tell anyone that you're not like feeling well? There's this thing that you have to like internalize it. But I think like I'm like just play cool. But meanwhile,
they see it, they know.
They see it, they don't care. They're damn well expecting it with me, because like I said, like every time I just go, I just disappear. And that's kind of like my move, like in general. Like have you heard of like Irish goodbyes?
Yeah.
I'm the king of that. If I go to a party or anything like that, I'm just gone. Like I don't say bye to anyone. I just dip, because if everyone's drinking, you know how it goes when you go to say bye. No,
yeah,
it's a thing. It becomes a thing.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. I just like to, I show up, and then I'm gone. Like I'll see, and I'll even warn people in advance. Like if I like go to a party or something, like, okay, yeah, I'll definitely come, but like, don't be surprised if all of a sudden, like, I'm just gone. That's just me. That's just my thing. And so I told them that I wasn't feeling well, and they were all like, whatever. So I just laid on the couch, kind of put like a cold rag on my head, and then I was good to go within like 20 minutes. But what I felt in those moments, combined with the that prep feeling, is pure anxiety. And all I could think about, I'm like, because I don't have anxiety, and I know a lot of people have anxiety, that is the worst feeling in the world. Like it is like a feeling that is just indescribable. Like your heart feels like it's gonna pound out of your chest.
Yep.
And you're just like, like you're just like crawling in your skin. It was really horrible. But that was I was like, I am never doing that again. Cause I've said that. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. And then what happens is I get jealous. Like I want to like it. Like I'm like, I want, because everyone's, doing it. And I'm like, I want to join in. That seems, all of this seems fun to me. It should, on paper, this should be something I like, because I like all this. And then once I do it, I'm like, no, it's not for me.
That's probably what has taught you good discipline, because it's the idea of it that sounds good, but the doing does not. So you're just like, not worth it.
Even in high school, though, I never liked it. Like I used to do it in high school, like a lot. And but I never liked it. But I continued.
I never really did, like twice maybe. My mom thought I was out doing drugs and who knows what. And I was like, Mom, I just want to hang out with my friends. Like, I don't actually care about any of that stuff. And I just wanted to drink my Dr. Pepper and like maybe smoke a cigarette, and that was it.
Yeah, right. No, that's yeah, that was a horrible feeling. But that was the worst it ever got for me, in terms of like that feeling during prep where you stand up and
it's bad.
Yeah, and it lasts for a minute. Like it could
it's
last.
Dangerous feeling. It's scary.
Yeah, it is. So do think that you will ever compete again? Like, is it something that you will ever do again? Do you ever
So
get the itch or what?
so I always get asked that question, but I don't like to say things as a never. Like I'll never say
Yeah.
never, but
Yeah.
I feel like it would be cool to do it as a map, like in the masters category at some point. But right now, it doesn't make sense to even think about it because with martial arts and working on my black belt, you can't diet while also trying to give good energy and recover well because it's a lot harder on my joints. Like I've gotten a lot stronger and like my joints have gotten stronger, my flexibility has improved, but like I don't see myself need like being able to do both at the same time. So right now the goal is my black
Yeah.
belt and then like continue martial arts, but then there could be a point where I can, my training's different where I can maybe do it in masters, but I won't say never. I just don't want to diet at all right now. I don't have that mental
Yes, that's the
capacity for
part that,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the part that I is like hard, right? Like the
I found a
train.
nice sweet spot. Like I feel good with like my
Yeah.
eating and like I don't feel like I'm having to obsess over it. I just feel like I can eat well in the day. I have good energy. I sleep good. I don't have to like feel like I need to watch and weigh everything out. And I like that point right now.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's a good observation and something that's good to talk about because, like, when it comes to bodybuilding or when it comes to fitness in general, like, everyone has their like perfect version. I do believe
Mhm.
that. Like, everyone has their sweet spot. So, for me, the weighing of the food, not going to restaurants, all that stuff, that works for, I love that. Like that, that's not like work for me. It's work for me to not do that stuff. Like
Mhm.
you know how I handle everything off season, on season, on prep. The only difference is in off season, I will go to a restaurant more frequently, like on special occasions and stuff like that. Whereas in prep, I will not at all. And then I'm just in a calorie surplus and I'm in a calorie deficit. That's the only difference. And
Yep.
that's the way that I like it. Like it's harder for me not to do those things. And there was a little bit where I kind of felt like a little, not shame behind that, but like I never wanted to sound like, oh, I'm so hardcore, like because I never looked at it like that. And I just felt like, I guess, unrelatable was the thing. Like, especially when I coach a lot of lifestyle people, because
Mhm.
I do think that it is unrelatable, and I do think it is unrealistic. For it's just for me, that's what I like and that's what I love. And I'm in it for the life, like I'm doing the same thing that I was doing 10 years ago. Like there's no differences. So, but that's because I found my version of fitness. So I think that every single person does have their sweet spot. And so I think that's like important to like talk about because there's probably a huge difference between what you have to do with your food in terms of like restrictiveness, right?
Yeah, and I feel like too with like clients, because you kind of brought up a good point with that, it kind of goes into this too, is clients will see that we've done bodybuilding or continue to do some sport and they are like, I don't want to do bodybuilding, but I do want help with this. And it's like making it very clear that what you do yourself is not exactly how you're coaching them. Like each client's gonna be different. And so you're not giving them a bodybuilding prep if they're just trying to exercise and have a lifestyle. So
Yeah.
it's like always like trying to teach like, hey, I have dieted and I know how that feels. I have also bulked, I know how that feels. But also if you're trying to find a sweet spot and be in that maintenance where you're just eating well and you kind of find what you need to learn and do. Because I logged food for 12 years. And I mean, yeah, I had small moments of not tracking the food, but for 12 years I tracked food. And I have not tracked one food or one meal in like 3 months and I've maintained my weight. And I know that if I drop calories, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I don't recover well. So if I try and go lower, I don't feel good. But if I want to tighten up or add something where I kind of clean up my diet, yeah, I know how to clean up my diet and I'll add more activity or higher intensity activity. So I offset with movement, I don't restrict food. And I find that that's helped me a lot of like what I don't know what that looks like and like you said like the sweet spot. So I mean, I don't remember what your question was, but I feel like it's important to know what you're trying to accomplish, because everyone is so food focused that they lose sight of like needing to exercise and get stronger and move. And so they need to know that you can't live off 1,200 calories and you need to
Yeah.
feed up.
That was my question, like the differences between how you approach your food
Now
now.
I still have it where like the priority is every meal. Like I have my foundations, like
Mm,
things that I like have to stay in there. So every meal
like
is like
protein.
protein focused. I'm aiming for like, more fruits and vegetables, but I like eating out. I like to have
Yeah.
an alcoholic drink once or twice a week. So I'm on like, everybody always says that 80-20 rule,
Hmm.
but I feel like everyone has to know, is it 90-10 for someone? Is it 80-20? Is it 70-30? For me, it's like 80-20. So I know I have flexibility, but I'm still meal prepping. I portion it. I don't weigh it out. And so everything is still clean eating, but I have it where I eat out once or twice a week, have little junky snacks. That's totally fine. But overall, when I look at my day, I'm like, this was pretty solid and I feel good.
Right. And then do you feel like all of the years of tracking and weighing, like, don't you feel like that helped hone in your skill of like being able to look at food and know portions and know uh like even things like protein, like, okay, this has this amount of protein in it, and being able to kind of work on the fly without tracking, like that, all of that time spent tracking, don't you think that added to your like reserve of knowledge and really helped you to like find your sweet spot now and be like effective
Yeah.
with it? Because a lot of people will be like, okay, I don't want to track. Well, that's fine, but now you're being irresponsible and you're not doing things like hitting your protein. You're way over on your portions, because let's face it, like most people don't err on the side of caution. Most people go the other direction. And so that like history of competing and tracking and being really diligent probably really like sharpened your sword for now being able to be really accurate with your sweet spot. Like when you know, like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to hit protein. Yeah, you don't have to track, but at least you know what to look for and how to get there.
And you also feel it because like this past week in moving, I did not eat enough protein. We didn't have a fridge. We just got a fridge yesterday. So we were just kind of eating random things. And I felt it because you start getting into the routine, your body like is more optimized feeling, like you have good
Mhm.
energy. And then you start eating junk and you're like bloated and constipated
Yeah.
and like your hunger's all thrown off. And people want to not track food, but they need to track food at first, is what I believe, because they need to understand the value of each type of food, the caloric standpoint, how they feel with those foods, because people just assume that like they need to be super bland and boring with the food. But if they track, they can learn that they can be flexible and have fun with it and still hit their goal. So I think all the years of competing and tracking food helped me learn what I should be eating, but also be intuitive enough to know, hey, why am I not recovering well? Why am I low energy? Oh, I probably need more of these things to help me feel
Yeah.
better. And people think intuitive eating is like, I'll just eat when I'm hungry. But a lot of people live stressful lives. They're busy with work. Food is the last thing on their mind. So if someone was intuitively eating, they might eat one meal a
Mhm.
day. It's not really the right approach.
Or the
You still,
opposite, or the
or the other
opposite.
way. Yeah.
Yeah,
You could be
like a
like
lot of people,
18
like
meals.
most of the population does intuitive eating. Like
But when they
it's,
intuitive eat, it's like
yeah.
8,000 calorie meal,
Yeah.
and you're just like,
Right.
that's
Right.
not what this
They're
is.
like I want to do intuitive eating, and it's like, well, you've been intuitive eating your whole life, and that, like you need to
Yep.
do not intuitive eating. You need to learn about food, and you know what's so funny is when you break down food and tracking in general, sometimes a lot of times people, it's a lot to take in, but when you look at it, you're really just looking at addition and subtraction. so
Exactly.
so what, there's something about food and the feelings and the emotions and the satisfaction attached to food that really makes addition and subtraction very difficult for a lot of the population. It's an interesting observation as someone who works with food in general that you can, because when you break it down, you're just looking at add this, subtract this. That's it. And so
But I think part of it is people don't want to face reality. So when people are like, hey, I don't want to track food, it's so restrictive. Well, one, it's the mindset part of it, it's the perspective. Like, don't look at it as a restriction. You're learning, you're looking at it to learn. And of course, you have to restrict some things. That's why you're trying, if you're trying to lose weight, you have to know how you're eating and what your habits are. But it's not really restrictive. You're just learning how to set limits. And so if you look at it as like setting limits and not restriction, it has a better positive connotation, not negative. And then you realize, oh, I just need to adjust what I'm eating and like learn how to like set my day up more successfully and plan ahead. But you're not like, I mean, people think they need to eat, like they go from like eating like 7,000 calories in the day, intuitively eating, to then thinking they need to like slash to like 1,200 or 1,500.
yeah,
It's like, you just need to learn like what is, like people think that like an avocado is carbs, and you're like, an avocado is not carbs. And so tracking the food, it just helps you learn what you eat, what are the habits,
I
and like
really
how to
think it
set
should be
limits.
taught in school. I really
Yeah.
do. Like, do you ever remember in school anyone ever talking about nutrition at all? Like,
No, I
there was
mean,
no,
not at
like in
all.
health class, I don't even remember them talking about food or nutrition or calories. They never taught that at all. And I can't think of one more, like, okay, if you take an algebra class, like, how much of that information, or a chemistry class, unless that's going to be your like career where you're like doing something with chemistry, or you're doing something with like you're going to be a math teacher or something, or you're going to use it for your specific career, you never use that information again. Every single person on this planet can benefit from knowing calories, nutrition,
Yep.
weight management, just simple principles of nutrition. Like, so that is something that has always been just completely mind-blowing to me, that there's no education system in from when you're a young age to even put it on your radar that these things are important, when
It's also outdated. Like
yeah,
the content in book, I mean, because things are changing so fast as a society, and the foods we're eating and the lifestyles that like the textbook, how are you going to keep up with it? Like providing information to the school system that is dated to now, not like outdated to something that was 40 years ago. Like our lifestyles are completely different 30, 40 years ago to now. So when I hear from some of my clients that I train some of their kids that are like 16 and I ask questions, I'm like, why are they still teaching that in school? Like, it's crazy because it's just so outdated that it's not relative to today's time and day.
yeah, it's wild. Now with your shift in, we'll say, your own priorities with your own physique and your own goals with your physique, have you noticed, because like with fitness, let's say like on social media, there tends to be this like really unrealistic expectation of what you're supposed to look like. It just keeps getting worse. So with your shift in priorities, have you noticed a shift there as well? Or how has that type of mindset shifted with your change in priorities with your physique or with your
So,
goals?
yeah, well, I guess there's multiple sides to this question because it's a pretty open-ended question.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like when I did bodybuilding, when you are dieting and showing your physique more, people want to work with you more. They're inspired, they're motivated, whatever. And so, and I've heard this
When
with
you're
other
leaner is what
when
you're saying.
you're
When you
leaner, but also
Gotcha.
when you're showcasing, because your content changes by your mindset or what you're doing in your life. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
everyone. So I've noticed that me and other coaches have talked about that, where it's like, oh, when I'm prepping and dieting, I gain more clients and people want to work with me, and they reach out more. But when you're not, it kind of dries up a little bit. And that's what I think puts people on social media thinking they constantly need to be doing something extreme in order to get likes and follows. And maybe not for everyone, but I just feel like that's the direction it's going. And social media is so saturated that, the only way that you're really, well, especially with the algorithms and the way that things are getting suppressed from Meta and whatnot, but you have to just really be like, from a business standpoint, at least for me, I don't really, and personal, I don't really care about likes and follows, but you also want to know that you're putting your time and effort somewhere that is, growing and making an impact. So I find that like getting more referrals and having good relationships with the people that you currently work with, your social media can be used as like a resume and a platform for people to get to know you, because some people might say they follow me for 8 months and then finally reached out because they want to know, hey, who is this person? People get intimidated by social media and people on social because they don't see, and then they're seeing highlights. They're not seeing who the person is. Like I'm a dork in person, we've like worked out together, but like social media doesn't always portray that, even if you think it does, because you're only seeing glimpses and like you only know what you're posting, not from the outside in. So I think that it's very interesting that like people aren't really, they're focusing too much on social media for their life and not real life as their life. And it's a weird dichotomy of everyone's tired of social media, but everyone's on it to feel something. I don't know if that makes sense. It's crazy.
I know it makes total sense. And there is a direct correlation with like how you look with the amount of messages and the amount of signups and the amount of business that you can get. That's why some people just stay lean. They fall in the trap of staying lean all the time, which is horrible for your body and horrible for your mind. And it's totally like you said, like a highlight reel. Like it's all smoke and mirrors. And I even think that like for like the people that are viewing that aren't coaches or that aren't competitors, like when they see people that are like having these like crazy transformations, like even that is bad for them, because it's like, well, why aren't I getting this like crazy drastic transformation, or why am I not, doing with that? So it is very saturated and it's very hard to navigate, if especially like we know what it is, like the algorithm and what you're seeing, and okay, like I don't even need to scroll or anything like that. But a lot of people who just jump on the platform, you're just going with the algorithm. It's got you. So you're just seeing that, and then before you know it, like your feed is all of these unrealistic expectations and all of these unrealistic physiques, which for fitness, I mean, it just keeps getting worse. So what do you say to like someone, like how do they navigate that? Like what do you like, because you ever have like a client reach out and they say, hey, I saw this person or this physique, what is this like possible for me? Like how do you recommend someone navigate that?
It's difficult because everyone has a different outlook of it all, but I think more people just need to take it with a grain of salt, because like I said, like they're only seeing the highlights. They don't know what's going behind it. And they think like they can still achieve that goal, but then when it comes to how slow that happens, and you don't see, like a lot of people will, like I've trained my whole life and like I've worked out. So like they'll look at me and they'll go, well, it must be easy for you. And it's like, well, no, I've been building these habits and consistency over time. I don't work out for 3 months and then drop off 6 months and then and so it's like, but like you said earlier on this episode, is people don't want to be bored and they don't realize how boring it actually can be. Like you can make it exciting, but they're seeing these highlights of these like weird ass workouts that these influencers are posting. And those people aren't necessarily certified coaches or someone that should be looked up as an expert. They're just making trendy like content. And so then you have the everyday person that's like praising them and looking up to them like a god. And you're just like, no, it's just for likes and follows. And maybe they're getting brand deals and they're making money, and that's awesome. But like, know where you're putting your information and what you're looking at, because it can be very confusing. And you end up having that like paralysis by analysis of this person saying, it's the same thing like nutrition. Like this person's saying artificial sweeteners are bad. This one's
Yeah.
saying that's okay. And so it's the same thing. It's like when you look at too much content,
Yeah.
and it's saturated, and then you're confused and you just do nothing at all because you're like, well, I can't do anything right anyways.
Yeah.
And then as someone that is teaching the like more holistic, functional way of exercising and being consistent and building habits, they're skeptic of that because it seems too easy. And you're just like, no, that's what it takes. It's not this crazy intense protocol that you need to do every other day. So
Right.
it's very hard to navigate that conversation for someone that reaches out, and it can be very frustrating, but it's like you're fighting the good fight of teaching the right information and being patient with people that are trying to learn as well.
Yeah, and just shifting like the focus and kind of, bring them back into that zone where they're, getting the results that they need, finding that sweet spot that we're talking about. Cause that's really that's what it's all about, is finding every person has their sweet spot. Every person has their version that's going to work for them, that's going to work for their body, work for their mind. And then also it's like getting the results that they want and are up for working for, and at the same pace. Because some people are, it's okay to go, you can go at a snail still gets to their destination, a turtle still gets to their destination. It's all about, finding what works best for each person. So do you have any like karate championships coming up? Like, do you have any I know you're trying to get that black belt, right?
Yeah, so I haven't done any competitions recently, but our black belt test is in December. So my goal for myself is to pass that test. And
your husband just has like all these bruises on him from like just practicing.
Like, check out my husband's like my husband has like, when he was younger, he skateboarded so much, and I don't know, he's a klutz, I guess, when he was younger. So he's broke his elbows, his ankles, his wrists like multiple times. So I'll try and like tell him like, okay, I want you to stand like this and I'm going to show you something. But he's so stiff and like doesn't know what to do. And so I'm like, never mind, you're not a good dummy. But like, it's hard to work with him. But he always will say that I scare him. And I'm like, you're going to make people like really nervous. They're going to think that I abuse you. And it's like, I don't lay a hand on you. But
they're going to be like, where'd that bruise go? He's like, I fell down the stairs again. I burnt myself with the curling iron.
I know, right? I don't know what that came from.
Yeah.
There's like bruises on his neck. But he's proud, but he'll like make it sound like I'm like, be careful because people are gonna think that like you're actually scared of me.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that's awesome. I think that's so cool that you found something that you really love and that you're really passionate about and that you've been consistent with. I mean, that was a couple of years ago that you were
a little over 3 years ago.
Yeah. And you were talking about doing it. I remember you were talking about doing it. I remember that shift and you stuck with it. And now you're challenging yourself. And that's what really works for you, is finding those challenges that you have to overcome and then overcoming it. And then if you do get the black belt, I don't know, is it on
not
the next
if
thing?
When I get
good. Yes, that's you're absolutely right. When you get that black belt, will it be on to the next thing, or you just cross that bridge when you get there?
Well, I want to continue that because I still feel like I know nothing. It's like the more you learn, the less you know type of situation. Sure. But it's also like when you are a black belt, you give back to your dojo and you help teach those belts that are lower than you to teach you what you know. And you live on, the systems that were put in place that were originated. So like Master Nelson is part of Austin Karate Center. He started it all, but he learned underneath other systems that were through like a program. And now there's other black belts and we are developing as black belts so that we continue to grow and build a dojo. So that's something that, I'll be, hopefully teaching some classes at the dojo and being able to like continue to learn myself and learn how to express it in training, because it's weird going from like, I'm a personal trainer, I coach people, I know bodybuilding, but when it comes to teaching in martial arts, it's so different because the verbiage is different, how to explain things and how to use your body is like a whole nother level. So I feel I'm getting a lot better with it, but you still feel like you are a beginner. And I think there's so much more to learn and grow and challenge yourself, because there's also different aspects of martial arts. I mean, you've got like jujitsu, taekwondo. So you're learning different systems. And I feel like it's like you're still in martial arts, but like bodybuilding's different. It's like you just train one way, essentially. I mean, there's multiple ways, but like it's pretty straightforward. Martial arts, you have so many different styles that like if you feel like you really understood one style, you can learn a whole new style, and it's like from ground zero again.
Yeah, and there is something to just like always learning, right? Like you're always, even, bodybuilding, coaching, like there's always, nobody ever knows everything. And once you do know everything, that's when you stop getting better.
Yeah.
And so anyone at the top of their game is always trying to find ways to improve and always trying to find ways to learn. And I think that's really cool that you've taken those principles and applied it over to your new preferred exercise of choice. Yeah, avenue. Even though like that you still, have these bodybuilding skills that you still use, which is also because I'm sure like there are times where that reserve comes in handy as well.
And I still have been prepping like some clients for bodybuilding. I've done a lot of posing sessions. So I have other local coaches that will send their clients my way for posing. So I like being involved with the industry still.
Yeah.
But I don't want to feel like, oh, it's just cut off ties. It's not like that at all.
Right.
Being able to still be part of the community, especially here locally. We have a really great bodybuilding community here in Austin.
That's awesome. So, well, I'm going to have your Instagram and your Facebook on everything. Where can people look you up? What is there anything you'd like to promote? A website? Where can people find you if they are interested in coaching?
Yeah, so my website is worthyfitlifestyle.com. That's where most of my stuff is. You can contact me there, or like usual, most people contact through Instagram.
Yeah, I'll include all that information, and I will include your website and links in the description so people can find you. Well, Jacqueline, I've had a great time. It's nice to get to see you again. When I was in Austin, we used to train all the time. So it's crazy that we're already coming on 2024 and it's time is going by like that. But when I come to Austin, we'll definitely get a training session in.
Perfect. Love it. You can make sure a terrible arm day.
Yeah. And you can like put me in a judo chop or whatever you got in your reserve.
Love it.
All right. Well, we'll talk soon. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks. See you later.